Hello and welcome to Functional Skills Maths. Today we're going to be looking at the topic of averages and particularly averages from frequency tables and how to calculate a mean estimate from a frequency table. I'm just going to share my screen with you and then we'll begin. Okay, so this is specifically a level 2 topic, criteria point 24. And yeah, it's worth remembering that with the frequency tables, the best we can do is achieve an estimate, but not a precise figure. What are frequency tables, you might ask? They're things that we've probably seen in day-to-day life, things like survey analysis, or you might have seen or you might have been asked to do a survey. You've got to give your age within a certain category, like you see on the left, and then whoever's analysing the surveys at the end will just perhaps do a little tally chart, and they'll say, oh, we had 4 people in this age category, 4 people in their 20s, 16 people in their 30s, and so on. So it's a little way of summarising some information to make it a bit easier to spot trends. Or we might see it with medical details. Baby's lengths at birth, for instance, often get recorded. So the length, 30 to 35 centimeters, 3, 35 to 40, 10, and so on. So for medical personnel, this would be a useful kind of frequency table to make. We're going to start our work by looking at a dentist kind of waiting room scenario. So I'm going to talk you through this example, and then later on you'll get to have a go at working out a couple for yourselves. So the story that we're given here is that you work for a dentist, and you've been asked to work out how many people are waiting at any given time in the waiting room. So because it's constantly changing, you don't really have a kind of specific way that you can do this. So you just decide to pop out every half an hour and do a quick head count. And the results of that head count, let's say, are below here in this table. So on 6 occasions, you popped out and counted somewhere between 1 to 3 people in the waiting room. On 5 occasions, you popped out and you counted between 4 to 6 people in the waiting room. Twice, you popped out and counted 7, 8, or 9 people. And then just on one occasion, you popped out and there's quite a large group of 10 to 12 people in the waiting room. So that's how you'd record your data there, firstly. Now, when it comes to working out a kind of estimated mean average for how many are there, at this stage, it's impossible to do that, and we can't do it just from the information that's there in front of us. For a start, we've got a difficult position that we're in of looking at that first row and going, well, 1 to 3 people. Does that mean that on 6 occasions I saw 1 person in the waiting room? Or does that mean on 6 occasions I saw 3 people in the waiting room? Because that would give me very different ideas of how busy the waiting room was. Was there overall 6 people, or was there all 18 people? I don't know. So the best we can do is estimate. And at this stage, what we need to do is look at that 1 to 3 and go, okay, my best estimate for 1 to 3 is going to be slap bang in the middle, is going to be 2. And that's what I'm going to use as my estimate for the amount of people that was in the waiting room at that point. So effectively, I'm looking for the middle point of the band of numbers in every row. So, for instance, in the first row, where it's 1 to 3, my middle point is 2, as I said. In the next row down, where it says 4 to 6, my middle point is going to be 5. The next row down, where it's 7 to 9, my middle point is going to be 8. And then finally, you can see where this is going. My middle point from 10 to 12 is going to be 11. Now, just as a tip, to ensure the best accuracy with getting these middle points, the way to go about it is add up the two numbers that form the ends of the band, add them up and then divide them by 2. So 1 plus 3 is 4. Divide that by 2 will give you the middle point of 2. That might seem like I'm kind of wasting words and being a bit unnecessary, because you look at that and go, well, it's obviously 2. But actually, when it gets a bit more complicated, or if it's a bigger band of numbers like 0 to 9 or 11 to 20 or something, it just helps us to ensure we get the maximum accuracy on what the midpoint is, because sometimes our brains can deceive us. We'll have a look at this on probably the first one that we practice together after this example. So for now, we'll just say the best way to get the middle point is add up the two numbers and divide it by 2. Once you've got your middle point column, you can then kind of forget this first column, really. It's existed for the purposes for which we need it. And we've now got column 2 and column 3 to work with. We need to create one more column, and it's the frequency times the midpoint. So what we said is that 6 occasions I saw 2 people, so overall I saw 12 people during those times. On 5 occasions I saw 5 people, so overall I saw 25 people on those times. So here is my fourth column with all the workings out there. On 2 occasions I saw 8 people, so I saw 16 patients on those times. And just to finish it off, on 1 occasion I saw 11 people, give me a total of 11 people on those occasions. Now my table is complete. There are 4 columns. That's as much as I need to do. What I can then do is I can add up the total patients that I saw, at least in theory, and get an overall total now for how many people I saw throughout the course of the day. So 12 plus 25 plus 16 plus 11 gives me a total of 64. Now, what I also need to do is then add up the number of times that I popped my head out in the waiting room to check. So 6 occasions, 5 occasions, 2. So that's 14 occasions overall that I popped my head out into the waiting room to do a quick head count. So what I'm saying is I saw 64 patients over a total of 14 occasions. And now I apply the mean average to this. So I do 64 divided by 14, and that gives me a total of 4.57. So that is my estimated mean average, really, is 4.57. But if I'm going to consider the scenario here that I'm talking about people, then it's not much good having 0.57 of a person in my reckoning. I'll need to round that to the nearest whole number, the nearest whole person, because we're over the 5. That's going to go up then. So it's going to be 5 people is the estimated mean number of people waiting in the waiting room at any one time. And that is how we work it through from beginning to end on finding the estimated mean average from a frequency table. Now, if you need to play this through again, then please stop here, rewind and play that through again. It can take a little bit of getting used to this sort of concept and creating this table. But hopefully this will go in. Just sort of seeing it a couple of times can be really helpful. What we're going to move on to now is a bit of practice. So I'll pause between each screen that I do, but please pause your videos for a little bit longer. Give yourself a chance to work out each part of the process that we need to go through to get to the final answer here. So the question on this one is estimate the mean number of sheep in Somerset's farms. Now, these are made up statistics, by the way. So we have the number of sheep in bands and the number of farms that we have. So remember, the first step is to create the middle point column. I'll give you some time to do that now. Okay, so hopefully you've been able to do that now. And you'll find that the middle point for each of these has got a decimal in it. Doesn't matter, just keep the decimal. So the first one is 249.5. The second one, remember the best way of doing this is add up those two numbers in the first column. So for the first row, 0 plus 499 is 499. Divide that by 2, gives us 249.5. For the second row, 500 plus 999 gives us 1499. Divide that by 2, gives us 749.5. And the same as, so remember, add the two numbers and then divide by 2. At this stage, don't do any rounding. We must keep these decimal points in there for accuracy, because otherwise our column 4, our totals column, is going to be affected, and it's going to be somewhat inaccurate by the time we've done our multiplication. So if you've got decimals in your answer, keep them in. Now that we've got that column sorted, remember, we can forget this column now and create our fourth column, which is the number of farms times the middle point. So frequency times midpoint. So I'll give you 10 seconds again, but you can pause for longer just to work out that final column. Okay. And so these are the numbers that should be appearing in your final column. Your farms times the midpoint, so 12 times 249.5 gives us 299.4. Next row down, 10 times 749.5 gives us 7,495, and so on. And you can already see that the decimals didn't matter really, because they've ironed themselves out in the multiplication, and we've got round numbers in the final column. So that's already taken care of. That doesn't always happen, but it's nice when it does. And just a little reminder that we don't need to do any rounding until the very final answer. Now at this point, once you've got your second column that you've put in place there, giving us a total of 4 columns here, remember we've now got to add up the fourth column and find the total of the fourth column, so the total sheep. So I'll give you a moment to add that up, and also remember to add up the frequency column, which in this case is the farms, and give yourself a total for that. Okay, so the total of the final column was 23,984, and then the total of the frequency column is 32. There's 32 farms. And then I've already brought up on screen, but remember the process for working out the mean is the total divided by how many there are. So 23,984 divided by 32 gives us 749.5. And now this is the only place that we do the rounding up, because it's the final answer. So we apply our rounding, it's 5 or above, and so we round up. 750 sheep on average in Somerset farms. Okay, one more example. Mean number of trees in Kentish orchards. Again, somewhat fictitious statistics, but have a go. See if you can work this one out. I'm going to give you less guidance this time, but see if you can work out the midpoint column. Okay, how did you do? That's our midpoints for the trees per orchard column. Now, remember to work out the fourth column and to get your total answer for that. Again, I'm not going to remind you how to do that at this stage. You can look back at your previous work and get that fourth column made. Okay, I'm going to give you 10 seconds. You can pause for longer. Okay, so the total trees, remember this was frequency times the midpoint. And that's how we create that fourth column. And then can you remember what we do from here? Just going to give you a few seconds to think about what we do next, and then I'll bring up that step on the screen. Hopefully you remembered, we need to find the total of the fourth column and the total of the frequency column. And then we need to divide that total by the total of the frequency. So 86,725.5 divided by 49 gives us our estimated mean of 1,769.90816. It's probably what's in your calculators. But again, if we round this to the nearest whole tree, well, 0.9 is high, so we have to round this up. So it's going to be 1,770 trees as the estimated mean. Okay, so this can be a little bit of a confusing topic, and it may well be worth your while just to watch this video through again. Please also complete the handouts that your tutor will give you for this topic. If you would like any further support, if you have any queries or questions, then please do contact myself or your tutor. But what we've covered today is the level 2 topic of frequency tables. And once again, it was criteria point 24. Okay, thanks for listening. Take care for now.